Hey everyone, this is Alan McKay. Welcome to episode 49. I'm interviewing Realflow developers Next Limit about all of their technology, their history, and all the cool things they've been working on. So let's dive in.
Welcome to the Alan McKay Podcast. Alan is an Emmy Award-winning visual effects artist and mentor to many leading industry experts. Listen in as Alan talks with other industry leaders in film, video games, and visual effects about their experience, lessons, and methodology. Alan will teach you pivotal advice to fast-track your career, better your skills, and reach your ultimate dream job. Check out the latest episodes on alanmckay.com.
All right, so welcome. I hope everyone's doing really well. And I'm really excited both about this episode and a few other ones coming up pretty shortly, and the fact that it's close to the end of the year. So I'm hoping everyone's kind of winding down and getting ready for a bit of vacation time. It's Thanksgiving this week in the US, so I'm going to be catching up with a few friends and enjoying some turkey, so it should be quite fun. And just a couple of things I'm just going to mention that are coming up. So I mentioned Periscope before, and that is just a live broadcasting tool, which I'm really kind of interested to start experimenting with. And so what I'm going to be doing is later this week, probably Friday, I'm going to start using that. It's kind of one of those things I imagine I can just kind of jump on whenever, but at the same time, I've kind of held off until now. But if you want to follow me, it's just my Twitter handle. So at AlanFTMcKay, so ALLANF for Frank, T for Thomas, McKay, MCKAY. So Alan FT McKay. And I'm going to start putting out a few different episodes, and that's going to be just kind of fun, just to kind of do a few broadcasts basically about career development and other stuff going on, and I'll be doing more of those as we go. And on top of that, I am going to be launching the mentorship for the third time ever, and I'm really excited at the end of the year because obviously we're getting up to that point where 2015 is almost done. It's been a pretty epic year, I'm sure, for a lot of us, and I'm really kind of hoping to get a lot of people on board to hit the ground running in 2016 with setting up new goals, really kind of pushing your career forward. And that's what we've been doing in the mentorship. It's something like 700 hours of video in the course. And on top of that, I'm every 2 weeks interacting live through a webinar with everyone, talking with them, reviewing their work, and getting to give a lot of direct feedback on what they're doing, answer questions whenever they're stuck, as well as just, on a daily basis, get to interact with everyone through our private forum, chat room, and everything else that we're doing. So it's pretty cool. I've definitely built a lot of friendships through this, and it's been a lot of fun. So I'll be announcing that privately pretty soon, and then it fills up very quickly, usually the same week it's announced, but I will also publicly announce it too for anyone who, if we haven't filled up all the spots. But basically, if you want to get a heads up beforehand about this, then you can go to my insiders list if you're not already on there. There's tons of great content, and I'll be updating that with loads of more stuff very shortly as well. But just go to alanmckay.com/inside and you'll be able to access that. And I'll put a link to that in the show notes. In the show notes for this, last link I swear, but alanmckay.com/49, so 49, and that will have all the show notes, anything that we mentioned here. And so that's it. I'm going to get into this now. I don't want to drag this on for too much longer, but basically Periscope and the mentorship are the two things that I want to kind of mention this time around. And other than that, we've got a lot of really cool episodes coming up. I mentioned, and I've gotten so many emails about this, was about bringing on a visa or green card expert, someone like a lawyer to kind of talk over visas and relocating and all that good stuff. And I'm actually going to be bringing on the firm that has helped me with every single time I've ever had to go through my green card or visa or anything with the United States. So they came recommended to me years and years ago. It's kind of funny because I've met so many people, and we always mentioned, which firm are you with? And there's always these two firms that always come through. And so this is someone that a lot of people in design, in the creative field, will always use. And I've recommended this firm so many times as well, just because they do amazing work. So definitely something really fun. It's going to be really informative, I think, for all of us, myself included. And I'm hoping it will benefit everyone. So if this is something that does interest you, and if we do it and it's really great, then maybe I can do it for a few other countries too, just to kind of talk over the primary things, because each country is definitely different. The United States is kind of got its own kind of loopholes to jump through, but Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand, they're all kind of a little bit different. So that's going to be coming up. There's a bunch of other really cool episodes, so I'm really excited about this. Finally, I'll just mention that the Next Limit guys have been really cool, and I've been really excited about this because they've developed Realflow, which is an amazing piece of software. I will just mention that they definitely seem a little bit more on the quieter side. I think it's just get a bunch of Spaniards in a room and me on the other end of Skype. And it's really fun chatting to everyone. But I can tell we're all a little bit more on the reserved side when chatting, at least in the beginning. But stick around. It definitely has a lot of really great content as well. So that is it. Hope you enjoy this. And if you want, shoot me an email, leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And again, you can get all the information from the show notes. So alanmckay.com/49. So ALLANMCKAY.com/49. Awesome. Let's get into this.
Yeah, we are based in Madrid. We have some external developers that are working majorly for the plugins that are working from other countries. Mm-hmm. But the core of the company is based here in Madrid.
Yeah, cool. we had, Victor. You met Victor in Los Angeles, right? I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
The office there for 3 years, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is he still there? I've been really busy and haven't had a chance to catch up with him for a while. But we used to get beers all the time.
No. Today he's in Japan, actually. He just got there for SIG of Asia.
Cool. Lucky bastard. Cool. And how many people altogether work for Next Limit?
Around 60.
Wow.
Yeah, this is
60.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. And I guess a minute ago you were going to talk about the history a bit, so starting out in 1998.
Mm-hmm. They started the company in 1998, but before that, I think that there is a very important milestone. Mm-hmm. That was 1 year before that, 1997. They did their first simulation with Realflow. The interesting figures about that simulation is that it had just 1,000 particles and it took 12 hours to simulate, to compute. Probably you have seen the simulation on the web because
it's
basically a bathtube, and there are some particles falling down from a boat and splashing a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And now your iPhone could do it probably in real time.
Yeah, that was 1 year before the company started.
Cool.
And before that, Victor and Ignacio, the original founders, were working together in a Spanish company called Red Infographica. They made there and they decided to go ahead with Realflow. So they left the company where they were working together and they started this solver, SPA solver. Once they seen the first simulation, the one that I mentioned before, they decided to create a company.
Cool.
So they saw a need in the VFX industry at that moment, and they decided to go ahead. So that was 1998, and 1 year after, they released, in 1998 they released the first version of Realflow, and 1 year after they released version 2, which at those times was a major improvement in Realflow because the user interface of the first version was very awkward, was very strange, it was very difficult to use and understand. Version 2, they did a very good job on the user interface. They have things that they didn't have on version 1. After Realflow version 2 was in 1999, The next most important milestone in the Realflow path until now was 2003, where Weta Digital contacted us for using Realflow in the Lord of the Rings. And that was in 2003. At that moment, Realflow was version 2.5. Was a major milestone in the use of Realflow in the VFX industry. I remember that Weta Digital at those times, they have only Linux machines.
Yep.
But Realflow was Windows based at that moment. So they bought a cluster of Windows machines just to be able to use Realflow there. So they did an investment on hardware, and that moment was very important for us. After that, the next year we released Realflow 3.0, and this version was the first version where we supported the Linux and OS X operating systems. And after that, 2 years later, 2006, Realflow 4.0 was released. And in here, if I remember well, we did a good improvement on the user interface again. We allowed for the user to create a custom layout of the widgets of the panel. And full version,
Python.
The Python, yeah. The other important addition in that version was the support of Python scripting.
Yep.
After that, 2008, another important milestone for Realflow was that it received the Oscar staff technical achievement award, and that was in 2008. And after that, 2010, we released Realflow 5.0. Between Realflow 4 and Realflow 5 was 4 years of development, and it took us a lot of time because we were developing the hybrid stuff, the solver for large scale, where you can have secondary elements like splashes, foam, that stuff. It took us a while going from version 4 and 5.
It had way too many things. It had also the statistical spectrum in real wave.
Caronte.
Yeah, the new polydynamic solver Caronte.
C++, SDK.
Yeah, there's a lot of big improvements at that time. Caronte was a big one, as well as obviously Hybrido, and it was really amazing.
Since that, we have been releasing Realflow not based on a number. We are basing the version on a year. So the next version was 2012, and after that 13, 14.
Yeah, the development cycles have shrunk.
Yeah.
Which we don't know if it's good or bad, but every year you release a version, and you face to have to release something with tons of features in only 12, sometimes 15 months of development, which is crazy.
Do you feel the pressure having to release new content every year?
Hell yeah.
But,
these guys.
How do you feel, like, productivity-wise? Like, in a way, like, let's say doing a 4-year cycle and then doing an annual, like a yearly cycle. Do you feel like, the pressure is on, but you kind of feel more motivated? You get, a lot more creative control, or, what do you think are some of the benefits of being on the hot plate all the time?
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know. At the time that we were working on Realflow 4, the resources that we devoted for the development were very scarce. And now we have more people. So now I think that we are able to keep this pace of a yearly version. But in any case, I feel, just in my opinion and my personal opinion, is that I feel better now that we are releasing every year, because we can narrow the set of features that we are going to release in the next year. What happened between Realflow 4 and 5 is that at that moment we didn't know what were the set of features that we were going to do. 4 years is something that nowadays cannot be an option for serious software that want to keep in the market.
Yeah.
So
I think it's much better now. From what we see working with these tremendous developers is that they like the pace. They like not the pressure, because I know that pressure is something that we try to avoid. And this is perfect what Angel was saying, that we know what the features are going to be like, so we can restrict to the feature that we know that we're going to be able to manage within the time frame. So in that sense, we try to keep the pressure to a reasonable level. But what we think is good is, we like what we do in these time frames. What I am not that sure is that the people that use Realflow really recognize the effort of having to do this every year. You know what I mean? Some people still keep old versions, and they don't see the need of moving to the next version, even if that version probably solves their problems faster and better and give them more features.
Yeah.
But maybe they don't need those new features.
No.
Yeah, it's, from the point of view of the user, for instance, I'm the user of Visual Studio, and I'm still stuck to Visual Studio 2012, and the last version is 2015, I guess. Because it seems that I don't need the new features that we have been adding, until there is a point where I found that I need to do other things that the current version is not allowing me to do. I think that in Realflow and other softwares that are yearly based are more or less the same.
Yeah, what I was trying to say more or less was that sometimes we like to add a lot of stuff and we have to do it yearly because of the product cycle and whatnot, but the users don't really need to understand that cycle. They, as a user, you normally, as Angel was saying, you don't crave for the next version to be in a year. But we as a product have to develop and release in a year. So there is kind of an off-sync there, user product all the time.
I personally, I do notice a lot that, when I'm working on productions, like obviously upgrading is always a bit of, it's a bit of work when, especially if you have multiple projects going on. However, if it's like a very key feature that comes out that you just instantly want to have, then that's usually the motivation. Like with me, I use Maya and I use 3D Studio Max, and with Max, I'm still using 2014 because there hasn't been like any features that really spoke to me personally. But I do know that occasionally, a new feature comes out, you're like, wow, I really want that for the production we're doing. And that's usually the big motivator to drag you out, So, I guess like having the speed improvements and everything else is always going to be a key thing. But usually when it's that one new thing like Hybrido 2 or something similar that really speaks to everyone, that's when they impulsively just want to be like, I have to have this. So, yeah, but I completely understand what you're saying. Yeah. And I was just kind of curious, like with Weta, because I actually remember that because I was talking a lot with the Weta guys, like David Gould and a few of the other guys down there, and that was in 2003. And I remember at the same time talking a lot with you guys. So I think Jesus Pedrosa and a few of the other guys back then were all kind of working closely on trying to figure out solutions for doing, the lava and everything else, helping build all these features for Weta to be able to use. And I think kind of talking about what we're discussing now with features, I assume that's probably a really great example where Realflow 3 to Realflow 4 had like a very big growth because of the interaction you had with Weta and like kind of fulfilling their needs in production to get Lord of the Rings done. And do you find like those sorts of interactions with clients where they specifically need features helps you kind of cater to their needs and ultimately build and improve on the product through their specific needs?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we had the same example with the Asylum, right? When the Benjamin Button and I think I was closely working with Mark Stasiuk on the
CIS.
Python, Fusion CIS in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And from there, I think it came the statistical spectrum and the real wave caching system. No?
Yeah, no, definitely the interaction with clients has been very important for the new features that we have been adding in Realflow. Mentioning that Python scripting system in Realflow 4, yeah, we were collaborating with Fusion CIS Mark Stasio because at that time he was working in that movie, and at that moment the integration of Python was very small. We didn't cover so many features at that time, and we helped us just by asking, I need in Python to be able to access the particle velocity. I have this problem and I need to solve this. It's in Python. For sure that helped us a lot. In the Lord for the Rings was exactly the same. There were some parts of the solver that were really slow at that time, and they need quick turnarounds to be able to get the look of the level. We were improving the solver at that time. So definitely this interaction with clients has been very...
We had another couple of cases when we were working with closer with the mill in London. They were working on, there was Realflow 5. I think they entered in the alpha. And
which movie?
Narnia, the Chronicles of Narnia. And they were using RealWave extensively, but they also wanted to have something like the creating the sheets of liquid.
Yeah.
So we helped them create their own plugin using the C++ SDK. So they ended up having a plugin that in version 2012, I think it was 2013, we introduced the shader daemon.
Yeah,
Was kind of similar thing.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And yeah, I've noticed that with some other software companies like CBus, who makes thinking particles, obviously, like there's been a couple of productions where they've specifically been working with a production studio, like with TP, like Thinking Particles 2, we were working on Blade, and we needed all these features for all the vampires to get killed, and that really kind of helped because we'd specifically request all these features, and then these obviously are ones that other studios will end up wanting to use. And the same way with 2012, similar situation where they were hiring CBus to develop all these tools for destruction. And I think that those situations where you pair up with a studio and kind of fulfill their needs, it really helps in the long run, because typically those are the things that other studios are going to run into the same issues or have the same feature requests. So having that kind of really close relationship with certain studios, I think, is really crucial.
Yeah.
That's great. And I do remember back in I think it was 2002 or 2003, at one point you guys were actually teaming up with Digital Domain. Like, you guys reached out to me, I think I forget who it was specifically, but because I know that Mission Impossible 3 back then, when Fincher was directing it, there was like all this water stuff that needed to get done, and I believe DD had contacted you guys about that. And did you guys consider that a lot, like either doing work on production shots back then, obviously not now, but back in the day, or at least finding like the key people to go and work on productions?
I believe that might have been Victor or Ignacio who was in contact, right?
I joined the company in 2003, so I wasn't here when they were talking to DD.
We've had some, every so often we get requests of if we can spare a developer to help production, which is a tricky question. We can support and we do assist as much as we can. I think we have a great support team with Luis and all the developers always pitching in at any time. Especially when people are in crunch time and they have any issues with the software, we do what we can to try and help out.
Cool. That's great. That's really cool. Yeah, I believe it was Victor back then, quite a while ago now. But yeah, that's super cool. And just just to clarify, so you mentioned Ignacio and Victor both met at Infographica. Is that right?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so what were they doing there? Were they doing all the cloth rays, meta rays, and all those products?
Yeah, they were in
Cloth, how I don't remember how.
Cloth race and dirty race, I think.
Right.
Victor mentioned sometimes too.
Dirty rays, which essentially these days is just an ambient occlusion.
Yeah.
But that's really cool, actually. I never knew that.
I think they were working on Heta rays, right? The face.
Meta rays.
Yeah, the face.
The muscle kind of metabol stuff.
Yeah. But he will be able to confirm if he joins us.
I still think cloth rays is still pretty damn good today. Like I used it back in 2006, even, years after I think it stopped development, just because it could do really solid tearing cloth and a lot of really cool features. So that's really cool. And I still think I have the the REM model bank that you guys. Well, sorry, not you guys. Infographica released, which was like 23 CDs of like all these models, which back then was a bit of a lifesaver. Yeah.
Crazy times.
So, just kind of curious, like when you guys won the Technical Achievement Award in 2008, like what was that like at the time for Next Limit?
Oh, it's a huge boost.
Yeah. Well, what do you mean exactly?
Angel was there. So.
Cool. So you guys came out to LA and did the whole Oscars thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that for the company, I can't tell if we started to sell more licenses after that time. I wouldn't say that, but well, for the company, especially for the people, was a very important moment because it was the the recognition of a big huge effort that we're doing in the last couple of years. So I think especially for Victor and Ignacio was very important.
And they got the picture with Jessica Alba.
It was worth it. All that hard work finally paid off. No, that's really cool. I mean, I've been using Realflow since version 1, and I do remember when it first came out. It's pretty killer back then to do a simulation. It would take quite a long time, but it was pretty amazing to see what you could do with it. And obviously, over the years, it kind of really improved, and but it's always been kind of the industry standard for doing water. Do you remember why specifically like Ignacio and Victor actually started this? As in to, let's say, leave Infographica and say, okay, let's get into the fluid simulation business and simulate water for the next couple of decades.
I think that well, Victor can tell you, but I think that Victor especially, and not Ignacio, was very interested on fluid simulation because he did.
It's a
naval
engineer.
Naval engineer is the name of that?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Okay. He was doing naval engineer, so he was very interested on those things. I remember that Victor told me once that he was for naval engineering. They use engineering methods for the simulation of fluids. Those methods are based on a grid, computational grid, and he thought that there might be an easier way of doing fluid simulation, getting rid of that computational grid. So he started looking around on the internet, looking for papers, for information, and he came across with this SPH paper from Monahan.
Cool.
And he was able to recognize that he found a very important piece of information for doing what he wanted to do. So I think that this is the way he started, but maybe he can tell you better later on.
Absolutely. No, that's great. And I'm just kind of curious, like, out of all the projects you've seen Realflow used for, what do you think are some of the coolest ones that you've been proud to kind of look at and see what studios have been able to do with it?
That's good.
Recent ones, I would say that the Daredevil intro is one of our favorites.
Yeah. God, it's escaping my mind right now. A52 did that. I'm just trying to.
Yeah. And then you have the Mr. X Resident Evil 2, I think.
Yeah, that's great.
The best one of the best ones with Hybrido.
Large scale
that we've seen. We had the Pirates the last shot. Was sadly Chris Sawyer who passed away. That one, that was an amazing work because it was pretty large, right? It was like 40 seconds or something like that, which is a long simulation at the time, and it was hybrid of one as well, which wasn't that easy to manage.
Yeah.
I don't know, tons of commercials. That's really cool. I mean, the Girl of the Dragon Tattoo, the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo intro. Maybe you worked on that one, didn't you?
It's funny. I had lunch with the producer from that show yesterday, and I remember he called me to work on it at the time, and I just promised to work on a crappy little toy commercial. So I had to give up working on Girl with the Dragon Tattoo to go work on a shitty toy commercial instead. So I regret that.
What else? And maybe Disney World of Color was another achievement because it was one of the first one that used render kit for Houdini.
But also for series as The Walking Dead.
Oh yeah. The whole team is a big fan of Walking Dead. And they're using it in every shot apparently.
Yeah, a lot of Realflow blood.
Yeah, no, that's great. And you're right, like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and also Resident Evil, like those two really stand out. I'm kind of curious, like, do you know like how much, like, let's say a typical shot Mr. X was doing on Resident Evil, like those big hybrido sims, like, do you know how long they would typically take? Did they ever talk to you about that, the production of it?
We talked quite a lot with them. And actually, the time I think they were using like 60 nodes in the farm using the IDOC in hybrid to split the simulation of the secondary elements.
Cool.
In terms of time, we don't know. I don't think we ever talk about that. But we know that they did the dynamics with the Caronte against the base of the simulation, the flip solver. No, actually, it wasn't the flip. It was hybrid one. It was the LBM solver. Yeah. And then they did the secondary passes. So it was a massive hybrid shot. Well, shots, plenty of shots.
Yeah, no, it looked amazing. I loved it. Like, yeah.
But they were using like 60 machines in the farm.
Right.
If I recall correctly. So.
That's awesome. And also at the same time, like, what are some of the projects that you've seen that surprised you in terms of like seeing Realflow perhaps used in ways that you didn't expect it to be used? Has there been many of those?
Always. I mean,
One of the last ones about the intro and ending of...
the Trojan Horse
Right.
festival in Portugal. The last one, they had the intro clip and the ending clip. That's very nicely done by Blatish Image, I think, in Poland. And it's Emanuele Nidi is the Realflow artist who did that. That's very, very good. I mean, it's nothing that... I mean, you wouldn't say that it's liquids. It's like... Have you seen those ones? They are on Vimeo.
Yeah. I'll definitely put a link to it, because you guys even have a case study, I believe, on your website.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
And that's very cool. Yeah.
That's great.
I think that was... I'm pretty sure that was using Realflow 2015, actually. Because Emanuele had the access to the beta, and what I'm not sure if that was Reverso or not. I believe it was Reverso that he was using.
Cool. Speaking of that, like, what's it been like so far? Kind of introducing Reverso into the package. Has that been pretty widely switched over to?
I think that people still have to discover it because it's a gem, I would say.
Yeah.
For me, I said that a while back, is the beginning of the future in terms of solvers for Realflow. And Ivan here can give you more light on it because it opens so many doors. In the patch that we're going to be releasing in a couple of weeks or something like that, it also has NVIDIA CUDA support.
Cool.
So we now have OpenCL, CUDA, and it's a huge gain in terms of speed, not because of the GPU at this stage, but because of the solvers itself.
Yeah.
Any questions, Ivan?
Do you guys, like, just for anyone who doesn't know what Reverso is, do you want to give a bit of an overview just of like how much it changes the game rather than the traditional SPH particles?
speed.
It's a speed. Yeah. It's a massive gain on speed, and the actual workflow is pretty much the same. Once you get to the double link that you have to do, because you have to create a domain, and then you have the emitters, the rest is the same. You're going to be using the same daemons, same geometries. In the patch, we are adding the Python support, C++ support, graph support. So you have everything there to do exactly the same that you were using to do the SPH solutions, but now it's 5-10 times faster. It depends. If you have complex geometry, it can be, I don't know, 20-50 times faster.
Yeah, absolutely, because you're also using GPU as well.
Yeah, I think that the basic idea here is to eventually replace the old system with the new one, which is faster. Most of the features that we have in the standard SPH are right now implemented, are working on with Reverso. So I would say that eventually in 2-3 versions, the old standard SPH will stop, improvements, and it will be deprecated.
Right. Yeah, it'll eventually disappear. So do you kind of see like GPU being the future in terms of like simulating?
Ivan can answer this one.
Yeah, I'm a real believer of the power of GPUs. I mean, we've seen how they are growing in terms of computational power and memory, and the things you can do with GPUs. I mean, real-time simulations of tens and hundreds of particles. This is something that you can't see in only using CPU simulations. So I think that's one of the things that we need to take time for future versions in Realflow. For sure, it will be a game changer for many users.
And as it's not also GPU, the new Xeon Phi family of new coprocessors, they seems to be very good for the solvers that we are working right now, because the OpenCL implementation can run on the GPU and also will run on the new Xeon Phi versions. So then we have another big improvement there.
Great.
Yeah, we just have Victor join us here. So
Hey, Victor.
Hi, Alan. How are you?
I'm good. I'm a bit hungover, but I'm okay. I don't know much Spanish, but one of my friends from Barcelona taught me borracho a long time ago, and that was me.
That's a good one.
Cool. No, I was just talking with the guys about the history of of Realflow, obviously, and how it came to be. So it's been really fascinating. I didn't actually know that you came from Infographica, so that's kind of a cool bit of history.
Yeah, all times, almost 20 years, 18, something like that.
Yeah. And how are things going now with Realflow? I mean, obviously you've been, the latest features, especially 2015, have been pretty huge. Like Reverso, Hybrido 2 have both been pretty major improvements, especially moving towards GPU, which we were just talking about. What are some of the coolest features you guys have been, that either you have released or that you can talk about that are coming up that you're really proud of?
I'm sure for talking about new features, I think the guys can do better than me. I can tell you that from my point of view, it's a very exciting time with Realflow being, after 18 years, is still on the market, is still going good, and every day is going faster. The last version, which turn some features 10 times faster, it's amazing. So we have a lot of ideas. That's the point. We have a lot of ideas and a lot of possibilities for next generation versions, and I think we're going to be working hard on the next years, trying to catch up with all these big competitors like Autodesk and Houdini that are not small companies like us. So we need to fight a serious battle. But I think we have a lot of new ideas that probably will surprise them. And for example, we are integrating the rendering tool as well which probably is going to open a kind of worms in terms of new possibilities of simulating and rendering at the same time. So I think we're starting a new cycle on Realflow, and probably we'll see very interesting features in the next few months and years.
Cool, that's great. And yeah, I mean, it's been pretty amazing, some of the new features coming out. What do you think are some of the big challenges, like especially because Realflow is a standalone package, meaning that you need it to be able to output to all these different packages and be compatible with all of them, rather than being, let's say, the core of one particular software package. Like, what are some of the big challenges with trying to keep it all up to date and compatible with everything?
Well, we always thought that being independent and being a standalone had a lot of benefits in terms of performance, especially in terms of being able to do whatever we want in terms of architecture, design of the software. Of course, people want integration, and that's why the integration with plugins are important as well. But we try to play both games. We try to make things as seamless as possible for the user point of view. And again, you always say, okay, you can have your simulation running, your simulation nodes running in different computers, perhaps in the future in the cloud, while your animation guys are still working in the platform. So I think it's a fair way to go. Again, if we're now talking about rendering and integrating Maxwell in the pipeline, I think it opens new questions about what kind of productions can you do with Realflow only, which is one of the points we want to explore in the future. For people that don't want to mess around with complex stuff like Houdini and others, I think Realflow can be the tool for many people interested in just simulation and visualization. So basically trying to open the scope to many more people, not only the very high-end specialists, but other kind of people that are more creative and don't need very complex tools like others.
And I think it's exciting that we now have what Victor was saying, we have played the game of being standalone, but then we are starting to implement Realflow, like doing a full integration of Realflow with the libraries that we call Realflow Core inside Cinema. And what do we want to do next? It's something that we're still debating, whether we will go for other platforms. And since your audience is mostly 3ds Max, it would be fun also to explore what do they think if we had Realflow inside 3ds Max. Mm-hmm. Would that be something that would appeal you, for example, as a user, instead of having to go to Realflow, use Realflow inside 3ds Max?
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny, the kind of history of software where, like, go back to 95, you would have Power Modeler, you'd have Power Animator, all these standalone packages, and then let's say Maya comes out in 96, 97, and it's a one solution for everyone type of thing. But then you fast forward a few more years, and then suddenly people are releasing ZBrush and like Nendo and all these other standalone packages again, and kind of diversifying, and and now it's kind of going through another phase. So like I don't think there's ever like a perfect world where you could do it all in one package and that would be the solution. However, it definitely, especially I think these days for fluids, for me personally, I think that's kind of a little bit of the missing link is just usually in the past you would export your fluids, you would do your fluid simulation, you would bring the meshes back into Maya or Max and render them out. The thing is that these days we're doing much more complex simulations. We're having, let's say, water that controls the dynamics of a scene and maybe even causes things to break once they begin to move. And then on top of that, it's triggering, additional splashes, foam, textures, shaders, wet maps, as well as even more gaseous fluids like mist and things like that. So because of that, I think the expectation and complexity of the simulations we do, there definitely is a little bit of a disconnect right now where you can't get it all in one solution. Whereas the big advantage is if it was in Maya or if it was in Max, being able to get, let's say, the dynamics, using thinking particles to plug into Realflow, and then having Realflow speak to fume effects to generate mist, having that, directly talk to V-Ray based on like velocities and everything else in real time, having, all of this stuff all in the same world is definitely, I think these days especially, it would be a huge advantage. However, obviously, I'm sure it's a lot more work for you guys to not only maintain compatibility with packages, but now actually develop specifically for them.
Yeah.
Well, I guess our secret plan, to be honest, is to make them to integrate inside Realflow instead of the other way around. So that's our master plan.
That could work. Yeah, but that's really cool. And like, I'm just kind of curious. Outside of actually, before you know this, I'm kind of curious. Do you find a lot of game studios use Realflow for various things?
Intros, yes, quite a few, I think. In game, we've seen a few things. Even I think the Unity intro that they had, we had a video the other day, right? But it's small stuff like doing blood shots that they can integrate into the engines these days.
Yeah, I think the Rick's level God of War.
In Gods of War, but that's the intro, right? No,
that's the splash of.
Yeah, but they were rendering the splashes and using them as sprites, I think.
Yep.
So it's not, because they need real time or things that they can cache back.
Well, now we're doing the integration of Caronte, the physics engine inside the Unity, which is going to open that kind of processes more clearly. And perhaps behind that we'll work on the fluid. So probably it's going to expand more and more in the future.
One of the key goals that we have for the future is real time. So we're keeping an eye on everything that is moving in the games world as well, and the VR too. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you could introduce like real-time, like GPU accelerated fluids into video games, like even have that as a technology that people can adapt into their stuff, I think that would be pretty cool. Because even recently, some of the video games that I've worked on or worked closely with the companies, like there's always seems to be there's like a big challenge to do some kind of real-time water, and right now it doesn't seem like anyone has a huge solution for it. Yeah, but that's cool. Sorry, you were gonna say something?
No, I said we are on it.
Cool. It's on the drawing board. So I'm just kind of curious about your other products as well, just because obviously Maxwell has been a really big one. Was that 05 or 06 that came out?
05, I think.
Yeah, 05 probably.
And I'm just kind of curious, like. Again, just kind of touching briefly on it, but what was the motivation to go from doing water simulations to doing a renderer?
Well, basically we found a couple of guys that were very motivated to work on rendering side, and they joined the company in 2004, basically, or maybe 2003, 2004. They were working on that for a couple of years. But again, we were always very focused on the simulation side. It wasn't just about simulating fluids, but simulating anything. And rendering, from the point of view of accurate rendering simulation, was for us very interesting, even from the very beginning. So we just found the opportunity to work with these guys and start this new venture with a small team that was growing organically until we got the first version of Maxwell. So yeah, for us, the concept of simulation is central to this limit, and either fluids or light can be a simulation thing anyway. So yeah, and now the point with Maxwell is that we think that it can become a more streamlined technology inside this limit for many other projects. So visualization is always an important part of any other tools. So we think that we can leverage that to other technologies.
Cool, that's awesome. And yeah, the stuff that's coming out of it looks amazing, like especially for architecture. And yeah, I do love the fact that you guys have implemented the the more lighter version of it into Realflow, just because obviously looking at wireframes all day can kill you, but getting to see some kind of representation of how it can potentially look, I think is been a really substantial kind of addition to the package as well.
I think the idea in the 2015 version is to have something more complete. I mean, you are able to even finish your shots inside Realflow with Maxwell now. You can export multiple passes from Maxwell. So you could say that you can export, if you wanted to, the layer of fluids totally rendered from Realflow. You don't have to go back to the platform to render. You can import HDR images that you're using to lead in your 3D platform and do the lighting of the fluids inside Realflow with Maxwell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, like I do like that, especially just because, like I said, you're going to get a much more accurate representation, and at the same time, you're right. Like if you want to skip the taking it out of the package, then you've got the freedom to actually do it, all in one.
It's a full version of Maxwell what we have inside Realflow now, and we also give a free Maxwell license for a year, so you could definitely do the rendering inside Realflow.
Cool. That's a pretty good investment. That's great. That's really cool. And I'm just kind of curious about Exflow as well. I mean, I spoke with I spoke with a few of the guys about it a while back, but like how do you, obviously it's more for engineering, but like how have you found like Exflow has been able to help in terms of the solutions it provides?
Yeah, well, there was a time many years ago where people were asking about Realflow for engineering things, and I remember people like NASA or BMW and other people wanted to use Realflow for serious things in terms of engineering processes, and we're telling them, well, this is not for you because it's not designed for engineering. But they were very interested in the visualization side because typically all these products are very difficult to use, and the visualization aspects are not very good quality. So that wasn't the reason, but it was in the loop until again another person that joined the company and was very motivated to develop. Actually, that person started in Realflow because his main goal was to improve the SPH solver at the beginning. This guy was improving that so much that it was starting to become had some sort of engineering validation, and we started to think about making a branch and creating a new product, which is what we did at the end. We started doing some prototypes and testing with real laboratory data and validating the solver. And step by step, we started to design a new tool, which became Exflow. So after 10 years, actually, it was a long process. Mm-hmm. After 10 years, that product is basically a new division of the company. It's going very well, but completely independent from the classic visual effects animation world. So it has its own business model, marketing, sales, and everything is completely separated.
Cool, that's great. That's really cool. I've yet to check it out, but it I've always kind of loved the idea about it. It looks really, really cool. I will say, I don't want to, I want to be careful about your time and not take up too much. So I won't go on for too much longer. But I'm just kind of curious, like, are there any resources or websites out there that you would recommend for people who want to get to look more into Realflow, or let's say that they're starting out and they want to learn as quickly as they can?
Yeah, sure. I mean, for this 2015, we have created a bunch of tutorials. Luis, Miguel, and myself, we've been doing quite a lot of them. I can send you the link so you can put them on the podcast.
Yeah, please do.
Luisma.wordpress, right?
Yeah.
That's Luis's blog, and he has 50 tutorials or something.
Something more or less.
It's tons of new tutorials on Reverso and the latest technologies, and you can also go to the Vimeo channels, the Next Limit one, the Realflow Labs one. We have tutorials now in Spanish as well.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So we've been trying to create new material for people to learn the tool. So, and we will keep creating more and more.
That's awesome, guys. And just curious, so is there any other things you guys want to mention before we start to wrap things up, in terms of things coming up or other special announcements?
We have the patch, the first patch for Realflow 2015 is coming out in a couple of weeks, and that's a massive one. It's not just bug fixes, it kind of completes Reverso because it has the Python API, C++, also the CUDA NVIDIA support.
Domain interaction.
Yeah, that's a very good one. Now you can have multiple domains interactions in the version.
Oh, great.
We did before. And you can see some examples of that in Vimeo that Ivan and Alex have been uploading, and Enrique I think as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a promo. We have the Spanish winter promo running until the end of the year, pretty much. So you can get Realflow very, very accessible these days.
Great.
For us, I think as $9.95 if you are upgrading, if I recall correctly.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay, I'll check it out. And actually, one thing you guys had mentioned earlier about, in terms of maybe not everyone's upgrading as frequently as they should, have you ever thought about doing more of a subscription-based platform because everyone else seems to be? But is that something that kind of crossed your mind in terms of forcing people that way to get the latest and greatest?
We would love to have people joining on subscription, but that's something that it has to be tested. People have to accept it.
I have to work on the technology side and have more kind of different license model scheme, something like that.
My point of view is that will happen for all the software. We think that we've been checking them.
It's the evolution.
It's the evolution. Everything will go to the cloud. Everything will be on subscription models. Whether you do it sooner or later, it depends on how risky you are, I think, because Adobe did it, Autodesk, I think from January stops selling perpetual licenses, so it's going to happen. Eventually it will happen for the next product as well. We don't know when.
Cool. That's great, guys. Well, like I said, I want to be appreciative of your time, so I'll wrap things up there, but this has been really great to talk to you guys and just speak to you guys a bit more. Yeah, go for it.
What would you like to see in Realflow?
That's a big question. Honestly, I will say that the late 2015 has been a very big game changer for me because I have been using Realflow since version 1, like I mentioned, and there's been times where I've loved it, but there's been other things coming out that I've been like maybe I'll check this out, but 2015 definitely has kind of brought me back to I've been really impressed with a lot of the features. It seems like it's really become a good solid solution, and I gotta say, like, it's just all in all, it's definitely improved. I think that if you asked me a few years ago, I would have said node-based relationships opposed to how they were before, and you guys have already done that, which is great. I do think that right now Caronte is great, but it would be cool to have a bit more of an advanced way of getting everything to trigger, so perhaps you could have something break or become dynamic and active based on certain triggers that you can dynamically set up in the scene to procedurally do, things like that. But also, one of the biggest things is going to be integration with other software packages. I do think that there is a bit of not everyone understands, I guess, the entire process. Like, I've actually been working on a lot of new training material I plan to release soon for 2015. I've been working the last 2 months on, and that hopefully is going to go through the entire kind of like production pipeline for doing Realflow for Max and Maya. And but I mean, all I will say is that 2015 for me has been a really big improvement. Like, I really do like it, and I think for me it would be more about, I guess, like I said before, getting dynamics to be a bit more procedurally activated and getting a lot of control from that. Just because now that Hybrido 2 is so solid, you can now do these like large scale simulations, and I think that either, if you can't do the Realflow stuff inside of another package where you can have everything kind of be a bit more intelligently destroyed, then if you are doing it in Realflow, then a lot of people are going to want to be able to destroy a town or flood a street and get a lot of things to be to actually happen based on what's happening in the shot with the fluids. So that sort of additional control, I think, would be a huge advantage for sure.
Cool. Right. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. Like I said, it was really fun to talk with all the guys from Next Limit. I do think everyone's a little bit on the quiet side, but it was still really cool kind of to shoot the shit and discuss a lot of the history of Realflow and Next Limit in general. So I really want to thank the guys for that. That was really cool. And like I said, if you want to check out the show notes, if you want to get access to the insiders list, which I'm going to be putting out a whole new lot of content for, as well as giving access to registration ahead of time in the next couple of weeks. So if you go to www.alanmckay.com/49, you'll be able to access episode 49's show notes, as well as be able to go directly onto the insiders list. There'll be a link there. So that is it for now. I've got a new episode coming out next week, and that will actually be part of my talk that I gave earlier this year in Paris. And this was a really fun talk that I put together for the It's Art Masterclass in Paris back in March. And I'm going to be giving another talk this coming March, so 2016, in Paris as well. And that's going to be, I haven't actually announced this yet, even to the guys organizing it all, but I believe I'm going to actually do it on filmmaking, on doing a entire production pipeline for pre-production, getting things set up, planning a shoot and how to go out and shoot everything, and then take it through the entire visual effects pipeline once we have done all the production and put together the initial edit and assign shot codes, everything else. So I think it'll be a great kind of bird's eye view of the entire filmmaking process, especially from a visual effects facilities point of view. So I think that will be a lot of fun. That is it for now. Like I said, a few more really cool episodes coming up, and I really want to start to gear these as we get closer to the end of the year to be very much aimed at your career and really kind of making a big splash in 2016. So get ready, and more to come.